Now, my little town's never heard of swatting, but I have, because I've had dear friends who were swatted. I've had people that were murdered because they stepped out their front door with rifles pointed at them that killed them. I know people that happened to. And I'm telling you right now, this is wrong. I don't care what political party you are. This is evil. This is wrong. This is not okay. And I will find out who swatted my house, and I will do everything in my power to bring them to justice.
You need to defend your civilization against the onslaught of this cancer of progressivism, liberalism, and globalist brainwashing. This is a life or death situation. No messing around. The prescription is 2 doses of InfoWars taken daily.
You're tuned in to the American Journal with your host, Harrison Smith.
In the southern part of Texas, in the
I
town.
just want everybody to know that I was just swatted in my hometown where I was born and I grew up my whole life. My children were woken up from their bed. Trauma doesn't even begin to explain what just happened at my house. I have it all on video. Now, in my police and sheriff's defense, they thought they were protecting me because they had a call, voice to text, female voice, saying that they had shot their husband 5 times and was going to shoot themselves. So they came with all their weapons, rifles pointed at my house, ready to shoot if they needed to kill me when I opened the door. And I have it all on my video, and I'm in the shower. I get out of the shower, and my 17-year-old, who was asleep, comes in there hysterical. Mama, there are police all out by my truck. They're walking our yard. I said, what? I am in a towel, just got out of the shower. He is like, Mama, they got rifles at our house. My 14-year-old gets up, comes in there crying, hysterical. My husband's staying calm. I'm trying to stay calm. I call one of the investigators. He tells me to call 911 because he was asleep. I woke him up. And she tells me, the dispatch worker, what was reported. Now, my little town's never heard of swatting, but I have, because I've had dear friends who were swatted. I've had people that were murdered because they stepped out their front door with rifles pointed at them that killed them. I know people that happened to. And I'm telling you right now, this is wrong. I don't care what political party you are. This is evil. This is wrong. This is not okay. And I will find out who swatted my house, and I will do everything in my power to bring them to justice. And I'm telling you, everybody listening to this, you better stand up for your rights, because it could be you next.
That is Dr. Candace Taylor, South Georgia native, who's been employed as an educator for 19 years. Candace made national headlines when she called for the Georgia Guidestones to be demolished during her campaign for governor in Georgia. She now hosts the Dr. Candace Taylor Show on Rumble Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and she is on with us now. Thank you so much for coming on, Candace.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to hear about, what else happened here. Obviously, that video must have been shortly after the event, because you can tell how raw the emotions still were. So I wanted to play that just because I'm sure you've had time to calm down at this point. But, I mean, what a traumatic experience that you went through, and just devastating. I'm glad you're okay, and your family's okay, right?
Yeah, we are. We've had some little things, just some anxiety, and the kids not wanting to really go outside the house, even to the mailbox. And we have 3 acres of land, and we kind of roam freely here, and they've had a little anxiety about that. But it's been very interesting. And I'm a counselor, I have a PhD, so I know that. And we're kind of just processing and trying to de-escalate. Yesterday, I feel like my anxiety was still high. The cortisol dump and the adrenaline, and couldn't hardly go to sleep last night. And then this morning, I couldn't hardly wake up. So my eyes are kind of swollen from just not having sleep. But other than that, we're okay.
So, in case people don't know, I sort of explained this earlier in the show, but swatting became a tactic that people would do during streams. People would be live streaming. And so pranksters, I guess you would call them, although it's beyond a prank because people have actually died as a result of this. They'll call the cops and say, oh, there's a hostage situation going down at this house, and they say the house of the streamer because they want to watch live on stream as police kick down the door and create a big problem. And I guess you can consider it a prank, but people have died from this. You've got armed men busting in a house thinking it's a life or death situation on an unexpected individual. Really bad things can happen. So, I mean, this was a real threat to you and your family. You did nothing wrong. Have you found anything else about who might have done this or why?
No, as far as I don't know who did it myself, but the GBI did call yesterday, and they had a special agent on it, and a special agent that deals with cyber things, and he was very, very kind. We spoke for 30 minutes, and I have all faith that he's going to do everything he can to get with the texting company and try to trace this down and do some other things with some people who've made death threats and some stalking issues I've had with different individuals that I don't know personally, but have had issues online with them. And these are, several different people. I have email trails and messages on, various people all over the country. And so they're tracing down all that stuff to see if it happened to be one of those people.
Yeah, it's incredibly worrying. And it's one of the things that there's almost nothing you can do about it because what's the only option? Tell the police, like, don't respond to 911 calls at my house anymore. Like, you can't do that. So, if the cops get a call about 911 at an address, they don't know who lives at that address or anything. They just get the order and they go expecting, something intense to happen. Yeah, here you can see the video of the massive police presence. I mean, there must have been 6 or 7 cars there. Obviously, people, the armed response unit, the SWAT team. I mean, just tell us again. Now you've had. Go ahead.
There were 15 to 18 cars
15.
between my property and my neighbor's property. Somebody said 18, somebody said 15. I counted around 20. Just spot counting whenever I saw out my windows. But we went back and counted specifically, and it was 15 to 18 cars, and but around 20, like I said in my first video, and then there was between 30 and 40 people. So ambulance was there. There was a lot of people in my yard, on my property, but there were at least 10 cops around my perimeter, looking in the windows, had their guns pulled, and we were seeing those on our surveillance videos. And we have, 12 cameras around the house, and so I have all of those videos, and I'm going to keep them. And just because people need to understand how dangerous this is attempted murder. This isn't a prank. This was specific to me. It wasn't that my husband shot me. It was that I shot my husband and then I was going to kill myself. I'm somebody who did my whole dissertation for my PhD on suicide. I am an advocate to stop suicide. I'm a crisis intervention specialist in that area to talk people out of suicidal ideation. I'm the last person who would be suicidal. And for them to say that was a total slap in my face and a blatant lie. So I live in a very small community. People know who I am. They know where I live. And, in the sheriff's defense, he made a statement. I saw it on Fox News yesterday. I refused to speak to Fox, which was interesting that he gave them a report. But he said to them that he did not know it was my residence. He's been in my residence before. I live literally 2 miles from where I work in the school system. Everybody knows where I live. And I had people from Appleton County posting that everybody knows where you live. And so he may not have registered the address in his mind, but when you have somebody who just ran for governor, it's a statewide seat. No one in South Georgia has ever done that. And then you have someone who was on national news last week and in the limelight, and I've had death threats he knows about because we've reported them. We've had stalker issues, which he knows about because we've reported them. It should be high alert. Oh my gosh, they just did a voice to text or just a texting. I can't text, a texting app. I didn't make a phone call. That should have been a red flag. And so I appreciate that they respond. Yes, we have an emergency. I want them to respond. That's their job. But they also have to use common sense and be highly aware of what's going on. And that's a conversation we had after. And they were very receptive. And I believe that they're going to do more on their end to ensure that it's actual emergency before they just show up at my house with guns blazing again.
Yeah, that's kind of troubling. I mean, I'd hate to accuse the sheriff of something, unprofessional, but I mean, that is a little, I don't know, that's a little suspicious for me that the sheriff would claim not to know that it was your house when it sounds like he had every reason to know. I mean, does that make you question it a little bit?
Well, he knows my house, but he didn't know that I had the address memorized. But we're a very small town, so he knew what highway I lived on. He may not have had the street number memorized, and he was woken up too. You could tell he was woken up in the middle of the night. So, in his defense, I don't think he knew when he left his house to come to this, oh, it's my house. But
Right.
his people should have known. And when he pulled up, of course, he knew it was my house. And he came on in, they were already inside the house, and he was de-escalating the situation and, doing all he could do. And he was very open to this conversation about we have to be preventative. They've never had a swatting issue before. He said, I've never had this happen. This is traumatic for me too. And I believe that.
Well,
But
I mean, all it would have taken was one miscalculation, and there could have been a death in the family. This was attempted murder. We'll be back with Candace Taylor on the other side, folks. Don't go anywhere. All right, folks, welcome back. My guest is Dr. Candace Taylor. She was a candidate for governor in Georgia, from South Georgia. Her website is CandaceTaylor.com, Kandiss Taylor.com. And you can find her videos on Rumble at rumble.com/C/Candace Taylor GA. And of course, she made a big splash with the incredible, powerful advertisement, political commercial she made calling for the destruction or the dismantling legally of the Georgia Guidestones. Of course, we loved this and immediately wanted to have her on and talk about what a great idea this was. And of course, the Georgia Guidestones have been in the news recently. They were blown up, apparently. They were destroyed by construction crews. And so, my question, Candace, is did this have anything to do with the Georgia Guidestone discussion and news reporting that's going on right now, do you think?
I mean, it definitely could have. The mainstream media painted me out to be a terrorist because God struck the Georgia Guidestones with lightning. And I say that because people in the area said it was a terrible thunderstorm. I got called by someone who said they were struck by lightning that morning. And I made a comment on Twitter, a tweet, and said, God can do anything he wants to. It was a miracle. It was struck by lightning. There's been meteorologists that have looked at the video. They see the charge of the lights behind it, getting bigger, and then they see the purple blue haze, the heliotrope after that happens in a lightning strike.
Right.
And so it went from that to an explosion. Well, was it an explosion from lightning? I don't know, but that is what it looks like to me. That is what it looks like to specialists who know lightning strikes.
Right.
But yet I was painted that I never said anything about blowing up the Guidestones. I said via bulldozer. After I was elected, after I put pressure on the county to get rid of these things that nobody knows who owns them. They're in the middle of the field and they have a population control of 500 million. They want to exterminate 8.5 million people, a billion people, and they think that's okay. They're satanic, they're evil. And no, they have no place in Georgia. They have no place in America. So, but did I say anything about blowing them up? No, I did not. And so the media has painted this awful picture. They've excited people in a negative way. So whether it was one of a stalker I've had for a while, or whether it was someone who hated me for a while because of my conservative ideas and believing in Jesus, guns, and babies, I don't know. But what I do know is that me and those Guidestones coming down from lightning had nothing to do with each other. And them going on there and saying that I 1,000% did it on Fox News is going to come back and bite them.
Right. Right. And of course, I mean, it's just reflective of the wider political landscape where whether it's protesting outside of Supreme Court justices' houses or driving them out of restaurants. I mean, all of this activity is not just being carried out by the left, it's being encouraged by leftist politicians and the mainstream media who are saying, what's the big deal about a little intimidation, about a little bit of death threats every once in a while? You deserve it because you're such a bad person. I mean, you can just imagine whoever sat there and went, I'm going to send the police heavily armed, on high alert to Candace Taylor's house in hopes that, something goes wrong and she or her family is murdered. They have been encouraged in this. They've been supported in this type of ideation this entire time. I mean, what do you think about that? And just the way that what happened to you is really just, I think it's going to start happening more and more. I'd say it's a culmination of everything we've seen, but it's not the culmination. It's the beginning of the real terrorist activity encouraged by the state and carried out by leftist activists.
I felt like I had to open the door or they were going to keep my door down.
Right.
And that really bothered me because I know what swatting does. I know because I have friends that have been swatted, and I know that they know people who've died from being swatted. And normally you wouldn't think, let me call the police, let me call who's actually outside my house, because at that point, they're the enemy. They're pointing rifles around my house. My children are crying, Mama, are they going to kill us? Mama, are they going to arrest you? Are they going to kill you? My teenage children are freaking out, not knowing what's going to happen to their mama. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, do I go downstairs with my gun? I'm fully armed. I have AR. I have every weapon you can think of in my house to protect my family for my Second Amendment right. But I know that if I go downstairs with my Second Amendment right with guns pointed at my house, that really should be illegally pointed because it's attempted murder. I know that they had good intentions and they were following protocol, but I'm telling you, we did nothing wrong. It was a lie. And so if I go downstairs exercising my Second Amendment, I'm definitely dead. Definitely. For nothing. Except exercising my Second Amendment. So my Second Amendment right was hijacked, taken away from me 24 hours ago. And there was nothing I could do about it. So I go downstairs like a sitting duck with my husband. He's videoing the whole thing. The police is at the door. They can talk to me through the door, and they still made me open the door and let them come in. And I said, I'm not stepping on the front porch. That's not happening. There's still rifles pointed. I said, you can see that I'm not shot. You can see that my husband's not shot. Tell them to put the rifles down. And they wouldn't. They still had rifles pointed at my house, even though they could see that we were fine. This went too far. And I know they thought they were protecting me and they were doing their job, but it went too far. And these are the kind of things I'm talking about that turned bad. And the caller knew that. They knew that I run on Jesus, guns, and babies. They knew that I would be fully armed. They knew that I would probably come downstairs with a assault rifle or my pistol to defend myself, and I would be shot.
Right, because you're not expecting the police. You're not a drug dealer. You're not a human trafficker. You aren't sitting there going, "Oh, the cops are going to kick in the door one of these days." So if you see a group of heavily armed men, it's dark, it's night. Maybe you can't see that it's the police. They don't,
I didn't know who it was.
Right.
I had no clue. It was people I knew.
Right. And so, of course, your reaction would be, I'm getting broken into. I better grab my gun. The cops go, oh, she's got a gun. Bullets go off. I mean, at any point, a swatting is 1 inch away. It's a trigger pull away from absolute catastrophe. And thank goodness the cops at least had their heads on straight enough to prevent this from getting worse, and that you had your head on straight enough to prevent this from getting worse. But again, do you have any I know I already asked if you had any speculation as to who did this, but I mean, is this just a tactic we're going to start seeing all of the time? You've seen the way that the left is acting?
I think we need to be ready. When you pull a gun on someone, you shouldn't pull it unless you're ready to use it.
Right.
That means there was guns all over my property that were ready to use it on me. So everybody better be at high alert. You better be thinking, and we need it, honestly, as civilians, we need to know what to do. You call 911, you say, why are there people around my house? And you say, there's nothing going on here. You can talk to anybody in the house. And as for me, I want the sheriff's office to have my phone number, my husband's phone number, my kids' phone numbers, whoever they have to talk to. If they get this kind of thing happen again, call every one of us.
Right.
Talk to us, say that we're calm, say that nobody is upset, and we're not having any kind of issue. If you need to come to my house, come with one police or two, not with rifles put on my front door.
Right.
This is ridiculous.
God, it's just, and everything. Just with the stuff that's coming out of the far left, where you've got groups openly saying, we'll pay $250 for the location of Supreme Court justices so we can go target them. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and, any other leftist or Democrat you want to mention going, oh, were they uncomfortable during dinner? Too bad for them. They are encouraging this violence. They're encouraging the harassment. They're encouraging this activity. How do we hold these people to account?
There were comments on my social media yesterday that said, I deserve what I got. I asked for it. I deserved it. I deserved the attempted murder on my family because I'm conservative. It was all over Twitter. There was some comments on Facebook too. There were comments on other platforms. That's their mentality. Their mentality is, let's murder all the babies and let's kill all the patriots. And people better wake up and understand that is their mentality. It is a brainwashing agenda. The media perpetuates it. The mainstream media needs to be brought to their knees because they perpetuate this kind of mentality. It is evil. It is wrong. And it is un-American. It's totally un-American. It has no place in our country.
It is definitely it's definitely a sign of the times and a real devastating revelation as to where we are as a country at this point. Final words. I mean, what are your words for the mainstream media that have really riled people up to this point, especially against you, calling you evil for wanting to destroy a satanic monument?
Well, I'm going to hold them into account. They can believe that, and they can keep, putting whatever they want to. Even yesterday, Fox 5 in Atlanta, they posted a whole article about my swatting, and then they included in there about the Georgia Guidestones. Again, I'm like, okay, so keep on tying me back to something that I had nothing to do with it coming down, except that God struck lightning. Keep tying me to that, and end the issue of me being swatted where I was almost murdered. That's what you need to do. That's real smart. These people do not understand defamation, or they don't care. But I'm telling you, it's a real thing. And we've seen Kyle Rittenhouse, we've seen Richard Jewell, we've seen Nicholas Sandmann, we've seen what's happened in court with the amount of money they received for this kind of activity. And I'm going to tell you, I will not have it. I will not put up with it. And I want everyone that's in the public eye to hold them into account. I want people that's not in the public eye to hold them to an account. This is our country. We cannot allow this kind of speech, this kind of rhetoric, brainwashing. We cannot allow it. We cannot stand for it. Quit watching them. Quit putting up with it. Quit letting them perpetuate this.
Well, here. We thank you so much for coming on and talk to us. We're going to keep up on this story, and hopefully we find out who this person was and they go to jail for a long time. Dr. Candace Taylor, everybody.
At this point, best case scenario is a few years of hard times for us all. And if we don't turn it around soon, then it will only get worse. But as bad as things are, we still have time to prepare, and that alone is something to be grateful for. A gravity water filter will provide you with clean, healthy water, even in the event of your taps getting shut off. And having your own food will save you from getting ensnared in government FEMA camps. And if you've already stocked up enough for your own family, you might want to consider stocking up for your neighbors. Some of your neighbors might not be prepared for what's coming, but you can help them by having an abundance of storable foods and water filtration. Whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Stock up now at preparetoday.com.